Okay, we are live. Good afternoon, guys. In the UK, if you're from the States, if you're in the States, good morning. If you're on Asia side, good evening, guys. It's so great to be here again. It's another episode of my weekly live feedback Q&A show. And today topics will be all about requesting feedback, guys. Give me just literally a second to set things up and I'm with you. Okay, so as I mentioned today, it will be all about requesting feedback. Before I get ahead with the topic itself and listen to your questions, guys, let me tell you what is coming in a week as well, because I got 3 really great interviews coming next week, starting tomorrow. The first guest is Robin Dreek, and it's all about building quick rapport with another person. As a former FBI agent and somebody who was working in counterintelligence, Robin really understands what does it take to build the trust and to build a rapport with others. This is one of his books, and we'll be talking mainly about that one. So that's on tomorrow, guys, 4:30 p.m. GMT time. Tuesday, it's about really good book, guys, all about feedback, and I'm blown away with Therese Houston book, Let's Talk. It's all about feedback, and the quality of that book is exceptional. And I can't wait to have this conversation with Therese about feedback. The topic will be how to make feedback comfortable for everyone. And Saturday, one and only Claude Silver, Chief Heart Officer from VaynerMedia, and we'll be discussing that kindness and empathy belongs in the workplace and how to make it one of your leadership tools as you're leading your team. So 3 huge interviews, guys. And at the end of the session, I'll be talking a little bit more about it. I'm opening my first 8 weeks program that is open for everyone. So not necessarily working with companies, but this is going to be my first beta version of working with managers who are applying as an individuals, guys. So I'll share more details later on about that, guys. Okay. So let me just get into the topic itself. Guys, requesting feedback. The truth is, I don't know you. I don't know most of you guys personally. And if you're watching and we had a chance to meet, that's fantastic. But I'm assuming that, sorry guys, I just forgot to add. I forgot to add something. My bad. Technical issues, that's what it is. Instagram is not working today. And in the mix of everything, I forgot to add this small bit. So my apology. That's all fixed, guys. So here's the thing. I haven't met you guys. I don't know you, but I'm safely assuming that you have your own goals. You want to grow and improve in order to hit those goals. Now, those goals may be whatever that is relevant to you. For some of us, it would be become an ex-CEO, an entrepreneur, disruptor, a coach, the best possible leader or manager, or it could be that you want to be the best possible partner or father, or mother, or parent. It doesn't matter what the goals are, guys. We need to grow and improve. And here's the thing. Here's what I've learned from my own experience when I transitioned from being an athlete to being an employee. See, the higher you go, the less feedback we're receiving. And the feedback that we do receive tend to be from people who are directly above us, meaning that's that one manager or 2 managers that is leading us, is managing us, is sharing the feedback with us. It's quite scarce. And it's not the best possible environment for you to grow. See, as an athlete, I was fortunate to be in an environment when, although in each session we had 1 or 2 coaches, I wasn't coached by 1 or 2 people. See, I was coached by 12 people in the room. By every single colleague felt comfortable and compelled to share the feedback with me just as much as I was comfortable and compelled to share the feedback with someone else. Because here's the thing, if we know and see something that will help another person, I believe we have a moral obligation, moral duty to share that feedback. I also understand that sharing feedback, especially the challenging one, is not the easiest thing to do, right? When I moved into the workplace, I've realized, number one, Majority of the feedback that comes my way is from my manager. And that means that a lot of opportunity is being missed because other people are seeing me more frequently, how I work and what I do. And if I get the feedback from people around me, it's typically very first few weeks, right? I'm guessing you've been through it as well. You've joined a new team and everyone is so helpful and so supportive, and they're sharing a lot of feedback with you just to help you going. When the honeymoon period is gone, feedback becomes a rarity. But we still have our own goals, right? We still have a hunger to grow and improve. So we got to ask for it. And here's my lesson number 2 that I've learned very quickly. I started asking for feedback. And what I was receiving was something that was quite vague, quite generic, that I couldn't learn from. People were nice with me. And perhaps that's also your experience. When we tend to ask for feedback, we tend to get it in quite vague and generic form because we tend to play safe when we're sharing feedback. It's still quite uncomfortable for most of us. But I also realized that I'm contributing to that problem. How I'm requesting the feedback is part of the problem that people sharing it with me in a safe for them way, meaning they're quite vague and generic and overly nice. So I have to do something to change it in order so I can keep on growing. So this session, guys, I will share with you some examples as well how to do it. And I'm curious if this is a similar concept, similar challenge that you faced as well. And if you are an employee and a manager, that is more likely to happen. But here's the thing. If you, like myself right now, working for yourself and on your own for most of the time, that becomes a problem because we still want to grow. Hey, Andrada, great to see you as well. That's also a problem because where do we get this feedback from? The opportunities to ask for feedback and get the feedback are scarce. And again, like I've mentioned, people tend to be quite vague when they share it with us. So we gotta do something about it. Now, the first thing that we have to do, and it's especially in the working environment when we are an employee, is we have to shake off the mindset, the belief that our development rests in the hands of our managers. It's our manager's job to grow and develop us. We got to shake it off as soon as possible because, in other words, what we're really doing as an employee is we are abdicating our happiness and our growth into hands of a busy managers, busy leaders. We're all super busy right now. And yes, it's the responsibility of a leader to develop you. And I'm always with it. And I'm not saying it's a job of a manager to develop you. I believe that it's our moral duty and responsibility to develop people around us. But we have to face the reality. And the reality often is managers are busy. Just as yourself, you're busy and your team also needs more development. But every now and then, we tend to forget about it because we are so busy with our daily routines, right? So please remember, your managers are just as busy as you are. And we have this tendency to judge others through their actions and ourselves through our intention. So if I want more feedback, my manager doesn't give me that feedback, I'm putting that responsibility on him or her. We forget that people that we are managing, they're more likely in the same situation and the mindset. So first and foremost, guys, shift that mindset away from thinking, I have to wait for my manager to develop me and it's his or her responsibility. It is, but don't leave it just like that. Do something more about it. And so what I've done whilst I was a manager and what I'm teaching now in my workshops is that I'm showing people how to develop this athlete-like mindset. Hi, Giselle. How to develop this athlete-like mindset. And here's the thing. When I transitioned from being an athlete to an employee, I brought my athlete mindset into workplace and I realized it's actually not working the way I wanted it. Why? Because not everyone is get used to intensity than an athlete has in terms of personal development and the relationship with feedback. And we are also different. And what I was doing is I was applying my experience, what I needed on everyone. And I was actually pushing some people away from myself. And I had to adjust to it. And the adjustment to that was to develop an athlete-like mindset. And I'll talk about it right now, guys. Let me just check the content. Yes, each of us individually are responsible for our own growth. Absolutely, Andrada. We are responsible for it. And we have to go after it. Now, I know you're working on for yourself as well, Andrada. So we are embracing that mindset more than an employees, because there is this, like I've mentioned, there is this belief that it's my manager's job to develop people. Like if we sign the contract as a manager, if we're being hired, if you look at the job description, it says it's your job to develop your people. And what happens is employees then going into the mindset, oh, it's my manager's job to do my work around my personal development. And if the feedback doesn't go from your manager, we are upset with them. We are not happy with them, forgetting that we're also playing an important role here. And that role is we have to take that ownership of our personal development. So here's what I mean by an athlete-like mindset, guys. There are a few components into that. Number one is ownership. Number two, we got to set up the goals. Number three, we have to practice like an athlete. And then we have to request and absorb the feedback. So let me, guys, break it down for you. Ownership. I already touched on it a little bit. And it's super important. Shaking off that mindset that somebody else has to develop me. Don't abdicate your happiness into hands of somebody who's already busy. Take that ownership from it, okay? And in my program, you can see actually down below, I'm advertising it. In my open leadership lab that I'm opening in March, guys, I'm teaching how to combine requesting feedback, receiving feedback, and positive feedback in a way that would help you build that mentor-like relationship with your busy managers. That they will go, oh, I don't have much time in my hand because I'm super busy, but this person is worthy, is really shows me that that person really is hungry of the growth, means the business. And if I spend that time with this person, that person will grow and then reciprocate it further. So I will spend more time with that person because that person showed me that they genuinely mean it and they want to grow, okay? So number one is that ownership. Number two, setting up your own goals and then chunking them down. And here's another thing that I've learned as an athlete. Now, most of the kids, myself included, by the age of 14, 15, we spend just as many hours playing football like any other football player that today is a Premier League and earns £100,000 a week. I don't earn those money, neither most of you guys. However, we spend just as many hours playing 3-4 hours a day and kicking the ball on the field with our friends. But there was a critical difference. There is one very important difference between one and the other. See, I was kicking the ball for 5 hours a day, 4 hours a day, and I was somehow getting better at playing football. An athlete, a football player, would show to the pitch and played for 3 to 4 hours and practicing football skills whilst playing football. And slightly different mindset. Now, here's how it looks like in the workplace, guys. If you look at your own career so far, and I was also guilty of it at some point, more likely what we tend to do is to spend a year being manager and somehow getting better as a manager as we practice on the go. Because we are not specific with the skills that we are working on. So if I ask managers, most of them not, what I get the answer, if I ask the question, hey, what is it that you're working on right now as a leader, as a manager? What I tend to hear is, well, I'm working on my leadership skills. Well, that's good. That's great. What exactly you're working on? Well, I need to improve my communication skill. That's important. I agree. So what else are you working on? Let's chunk it down any further. And that's when the problem starts. A lot of us understand that we have to work on something that is important and big, but we're not chunking it down enough. So as a kid, I was kicking ball for a few hours. Football player would turn up to the pitch and practice his weaker foot deliberately on purpose. And that's what we have to start doing as a manager, being a little bit more deliberate with our skill sets that we are practicing in the workplace. So let's just use this as an example. Let's just follow this example as a communication, right? So we need to work on our communication skill as leaders. Great. Perhaps part of that is, how do I communicate one-to-many? Meaning, how do I deliver presentation? How do I do public speaking in front of my team, whether it's team of 3, team of 5, team of 10? If you're the leader, if you're the manager, at one point or another, you're going to present in front of people. So getting comfortable with that skill is super important. But how do you practice those skills? How do you chunk it down further and you can make it on a daily basis? So here's an example of what I did at some point. When I decided that eventually, as a manager, I want to grow myself in a position to coach even more people, meaning being in front of large audience, I set myself these huge goals to speak in front of 10,000 people. But my communication skills didn't allow me to do that, guys. I just wasn't ready. But see, here's what I did. I picked up one skill and one thing only to improve, and I was practicing like an athlete every single day. I would turn up to work and practice like an athlete, one skill from my communication that helps me today. And that is as simple as eradicating my filler words of you know. Right? How often, and especially if you've done any podcast interviews, if you spoke in front of people, or even if you listen to yourself, how you talk with your team, how you're leading your meetings, how you communicate during the meetings, more likely you have your own sets of filler words. And it's highly likely that one of them is you know. So we talk about you know. So a few years ago, I realized I need to work on that because it's troublesome. So here's what I did. I went to my team and I said, hey guys, I'm working on eradicating the you know part from my vocabulary. And I need your favor. Every time you hear me saying you know, poke me in the shoulder. And that's what I did. I picked one skill, I chunk it down. There's a huge goal, guys, yeah? Speaking in front of 10,000 people. And whatever your huge goal is, communication will be part of that. More likely you will have to speak in front of everyone. So I said, what I'll do, I'll just focus on eliminating for a few months, eliminating one habit that will stay with me for years to come. And I said, hey, poke me. And here's what happened. Number one, I was able to eradicate that from my vocabulary. That's important, right? That's my goal. But something more happened here. I became a role model of requesting for feedback. I showed to my team in an organic way that I mean business. I'm not here only to dish the feedback all the time. It's not my job as a manager to share the feedback. It's my responsibility and it's who I am as Raf. I'm a feedback savvy person, guys. And if you work with me, you know that. I'm growth obsessed. But knowing it is different than doing it and showing to your team and saying, hey, around me, feedback is safe. And that's what you want as a leader. You want to show your team that around you, feedback is safe. Requesting feedback is super important because it's a safer approach. And if I said to my team, hey, just poke me, and they did it, they had fun with it, they also seen that I mean the business. And I started creating this environment, people around me felt comfortable around feedback conversations with sharing it, receiving it, requesting it. So I just brought it to the run thing, okay? Let me just guys check some questions. I've got some questions here. Yes, Ricardo, the way to reach your goals is to take any bit of feedback as another step towards your goal. Absolutely. That's the understanding. That's how we have to take it. That's how we have to perceive it and view it as an improvement. And it's difficult when we bring some emotions into the mix and our storytelling is something else. So that's a super important point. Absolutely. Kaden's asked me, did I share my why behind the action? Of course I did. Absolutely I did. You got to share the reasons why you do what you do. And that's an important question that you Kaden asked, because there is something else that I'll be talking about later on. Perhaps let me mention it right now. The reason why I stated why am I doing it, what I'm looking to learn from it, was to state to my team what it is that I'm working on right now. I said, this is my passion, this is my vision, this is what I need to work on. And I'm aware about my shortfalls. I'm aware what I need to work on, and I need your help. So there are a few important factors here why I've done it. Number one, hey, I'm not perfect. I'm the manager. I don't have all the answers, and I'm working on it. Managers often, or employees often, believe that the manager should have all the answers already. Just because you have a job title on the badge on your chest saying, hey, I'm the manager, you have all your answers. We don't. But employees tend to forget about that. So number one, what I did, Kieran, is I said to my team, hey, I'm not imperfect. I need help to grow. Number two, hey, this is my passion. Coaching people is my passion. This is what I'm working towards. Meaning I already communicating, sort of passive feedback, what I call was, hey, I really want to improve on coaching and developing others. This is who I am as a person. And this is what you get from me when you're sticking around me for a little bit longer. And number three, Kieran, what I've done that is I've replicated what I said right at the beginning when I was an athlete. During the wrestling session, I wasn't coached by 2 people. I was coached by 12 people, by entire room, because everyone knew what I'm working on. Right? Everyone knew that there are certain techniques, certain aspects of my wrestling techniques and my wrestling abilities that I'm working on. Everyone knew that my strength was leg attack. Everyone knew that my strength was picking up the ankle. My weakness was this. It was very clear to everyone, so they could help me more. And here's my question to you guys now. How many people within your team are aware of your current focus goal? Sorry, of your current development focus point? Who knows about it? Is it just your manager who you sat down with every 4, 6, 8, 12 weeks, write down the goals, and they know that they have to work on it with you? Or is it everyone else? It feels a little bit vulnerable, maybe even scary to share, hey, I had my review and this is the weaknesses that I have and this is what I'm working towards. But if you announce them openly to everyone, people will help you. And you're going to make it easy for everyone to share feedback with you. Why? Because they know what you're working on. I'll touch on that a little bit later, why it's so important when we're asking the feedback for feedback itself. But as I mentioned at the beginning, how I was asking for feedback was contributing to how feedback was shared with me. And that was quite vague, generic, and in a safe way. I couldn't grow from it because I was asking wrong questions. I'll get to back in a moment. So thank you, Karen, for asking me that question. Top one, I really liked it. Thank you. So those are the reasons why it's so important that I shared that with my team. Now, you can do that with every skill that you potentially can think of. Here's another one that I did. That's simple, so important. Pick up a skill that seems to be small, tiny, but its impact is incredible during your lifetime. Now, let's just use an eye contact as an example. Perhaps I work in hospitality. And so I've met so many people, and some of them are just a magnetic personality. The way they greet you, the way they look into your eyes and smile, it's all about you. If they are present in that moment. And I realized a huge part of that is the eye contact. Go to the grocery shop, and quite often you have people giving you receipt and saying thank you, not even looking at you. There is no meaning with it, right? But some just look into your eye and say, hey, thank you very much, you're amazing. Hey, how are you doing? How was your day? See, that eye contact is important. So I realized I need to work on it. And in order to build my business, guys, I have stepped down from being a manager to being a waiter so I can pay my bills whilst I'm side hustling, okay? And I thought to myself, okay, how do I implement my athlete-like mindset in this situation? How can I work as a waiter and contribute to being the best possible coach and speaking in front of 10,000 people? And I said, you know what? Eye contact will be one of them. So here's the trick, guys. If you want to really resonate with people and connect through eye contact, what you want to do is you want to try to spot what the retina colors are. What a retina color is. And it changes the focus point. If you do that, you really with the person. You can't do it for a prolonged period of time because it's too intensive, but the first few seconds, do it. So I said to myself, I walked into the work with my athlete-like mindset, and I said, today I'm working on eye contact only. with every guest that comes through my doors and sits in my section. See, one tiny skill, it's no longer, I need to get better at connecting with people. It's no longer, I need to get better at building rapport with people. It's a tiny, small skill that you can practice every day and get better at. So I use it as also for myself. Here's another one for you, and I highly encourage you to pick it as a one. Asking questions a bit differently. The chances are your habit right now is to ask binary question, i.e., are you sure? Versus how sure are you? Are you sure doesn't invite conversation, doesn't invite contribution, doesn't open the conversation. Now, as a leader, perhaps one of your goals is, I want to make an inclusive environment. I want everyone to contribute. I want everyone to have an opinion. It's easier said than done. However, with certain tricks, you can create that culture through changing your communication habits, how you share the feedback and how you communicate, how you ask questions. It took me months to forget about asking why questions and trained myself to ask what questions. And I'm still working on it. And perhaps I'm going to spend the next year or so. It's so challenging because we all spend years asking the questions in the wrong way. What you want to do is to ask more what and how questions and less why questions. Tricky one. But if you master that with the next few months or even year, that's a lifetime skill. And so now, if I know I'm working on not asking why questions and what questions, now it's a lot easier for me to request for feedback because it's clear for everyone what I'm working on, but it's also clear for me because I know where my focus is. I can turn up with purpose and being deliberate with practicing certain skills in the workplace, guys, okay? I'm just a sip coffee. Just check out the comments, guys. Alrighty, so we spoke about practicing like an athlete. If you choose to follow with this binary question challenge, and I highly recommend it, you may want to check out my episode 19 with David Marquette, who's actually, his work is dedicated to that sort of language habit. His book is called Leadership is a Language. And he shares a lot of examples how to do that and what are the questions and the ways we communicate that tend to bring more or less autonomy than more. Okay, so that's episode 19, guys, of Coaching Leaders. Now, the last step, of course, it is requesting the feedback itself and absorbing it. Okay, and when I mean absorbing, I mean really get the value from it, because there is value in every feedback that's being shared with you. Quite often we don't see it because our emotional response to it is masking it, makes it all foggy. But there is a value in almost every feedback, pretty much in every feedback that you're sharing. Because even if the feedback isn't valuable, your response to that feedback is feedback to you, quite frankly. Because you can then practice how you are receiving the feedback, how you're responding to the feedback that you haven't resonated with you or you completely disagree with. So every feedback conversation is an opportunity to grow, guys. Every single one. Now, I already mentioned, because Kieran asked me that question earlier on, have I stated that intent behind my request in the workplace? But I'll just go back to it for a short second, guys. When you are requesting the feedback, hold on, there is some comment. Let me just see it. Great steps: ownership, setting goals, and chunking them down, requesting and absorbing feedback. Yes, Andrada, thank you very much for engaging in this conversation. I really appreciate that. So here's the thing. Now we are going to request the feedback itself. If you don't have clarity about what you're working on, it's hard to ask for the feedback. And here's how more likely you are asking for the feedback right now. And here's how I was requesting it years ago when I realized I'm contributing to this problem. Imagine yourself, I finished this session, or finish a public speaking event, or you finished a presentation with your team, and you go to your people and you say, hey, how was my session? The intention is great. I want to learn. You've even changed your emotional response to it. You're more excited about it, and you feel courageous at the moment, and you go and you ask for that feedback, and you, hey, how was the presentation? How was the session? What you'll get on the back of it is more likely just as a generic feedback. Because let's pause for a second and see what really happens when we ask for feedback in such a vague way. If I hear from someone, how was my session? The very first thing, subconsciously, in a split second, what I'm doing here is I'm trying to figure it out what it is that you're looking for, which part of your delivery you're interested in. Are we talking about your body language, your slides? Are we talking about the message, the storytelling? Most people don't even go that deep within that. There is a very quick question: is what exactly do you want? Because what we don't want is to upset you. What we don't want is to share the feedback that you will find not valuable. And what's the best way to do it? Is to play safe. And when your employees will be playing safe with you, what you get is the feedback that is really, really difficult to learn from. So that's the reason why you don't want to be as vague. From my experience, early years, as I was a chef, if I ask for the feedback, my managers, how was the shift? How was, I meant my performance, and how was my section? What I get is not diluted. What I get is a summary of how my manager felt, how the session or how the shift went. It was good. There was no problems. It was smooth. That's great. We want that. But I don't grow from it because I don't know which part of my exact behavior and actions contributed to being it smooth, being it comfortable, whatever that is. And I will then try to figure out on my own what it is. The chances are I'll have a wrong understanding what contributes to that and what detracts. So I have to help you to share that relevant feedback with me. So I already mentioned setting up the goals. Now, imagine that you're going into the presentation and you state your goals, what you're looking for to learn from the session, with people that will be part of that session. And if it's uncomfortable with you, that one person that you can count on the feedback, on honest, candid feedback that you have a good relationship with. So rather than saying at the beginning, hey, just give me feedback at the end of the session, say, hey, I'm looking to learn from this session X, Y, and Z. Can you just let me know at the end of it how it was? So it could be, hey, I'm looking on eradicating those filler words. Or I'm looking at improving the pace of my talk. I always use it as an example because when I'm excited, I talk really fast. And unless you worked with me, you might not get used to it, how quick I talk with a slight accent. It detracts from the message that I want to send. It detracts from the value that I want to send because potentially you'll be wondering what was my message there, and you'll be focusing on understanding and keeping up with my pace rather than focusing on the value and contextualize it in your mind and learning on the go, because my pace would be distracting from it. So if I say, hey, I'm looking to improve that pace, and that's the only thing I want you to pay attention for, could you do that for me, please? Stating it ahead of the session, it's a good idea. Same thing at the end. Hey, this is the one thing I was working on. I'm wondering, how was your perception? Right? What was the feeling behind it? So try to be as detailed as possible what you're looking for, and stating that one or two skills that you are looking to learn, whether within the session or the long term. You can say, hey, I'm working on being a good listener. How was I coming across throughout the session? See, I've learned one day that I don't look like I'm listening during the management meetings, although I was listening intensively, because I had a certain habit that I would maybe look up the ceiling when people were talking. To you, if you don't know that, it could look like I'm not listening to you whatsoever. And there is another reason why it's so important to state your goals. There is a story that stuck with me for a while now. I was coaching that one manager on feedback skills, and he said, Raf, I promised myself years ago that no matter what, I'll always be asking questions. And it's uncomfortable. If I'll be on a seminar training or public speaking event and I'll be in the audience, and when they say, hey, any questions, I'll be the first one to raise the hand. And he says, it's uncomfortable as heck, but I'll be doing it. I'm committed to it. And from then on, he would always do that. Even during the management meetings, even during every single meeting. And at some point, he started being on the receiving end of jokes and sarcastic jokes because, of course, he has a questions. He always has some questions. That sort of, behavior within the team. Although everyone wants to be inquisitive and curious, because it takes courage to ask for feedback and ask questions, because we don't want to look silly in a meeting. So, any questions? No. You see, that's another trick, another habit. Binary questions. Any questions? Yes or no? swap it with what questions do you have, and you more likely invite more questions. I'm just detracting a little bit from it, guys. So it's really important to stay that with your team, because if you let them know what you're working on, they understand, they have a now context behind it, and they won't be as judgmental towards you. So if you stayed ahead of it, hey guys, I'm working on something that is very uncomfortable and I'm nervous when I'm doing so, but I'm committed to it. And that is, at the end of each session, I'll raise my hand and I'll always ask the question. That level of transparency and vulnerability will buy you a lot of trust from your people. Believe me, it will. And not only you're going to show yourself as a real person who means the business, who really wants to grow, but it also helps you cut a certain assumption and be on that receiving end of these sarcastic comments as well. So that's why it's so important to share it ahead, guys. Now, let me just see, there's some great comment I can see from Andrada. So Andrada said, I had a presentation 4 years ago while I was still with the company I work with. I was all shaky and sweaty, and I was interested in how audience received feedback. You were great. No nervosity was perceived. Everyone said, well done, but nobody talked about how much I played with the paper in my hands and my faulty body language, very agitated. Spot on. Yes, I can imagine myself being there as well. It might have been a good presentation, yet I didn't feel like that, and I was interested in learning more than the surface. But it doesn't read any further. But I totally resonate with you, Andrada. Now, here's the thing. People mean very well to you, and their version of being nice to you and supporting you is to cheering you up as well. So one thing is that they tend to play safe with the feedback. Number two is they tend to be quite supportive, and that means well done, because they know how difficult and stressful it is to present in front of everyone else. So they will be more empathetic with you and sympathetic with you. One thing that you could do, Andrada, whether before that session or after that session, is to be very clear with people and say, hey, the best thing that you can do for me is to be honest with the feedback when I finish the session. I'm working towards X and Y. I really want to learn, and I know I'm miles away from there, and I know it may feel uncomfortable to share certain challenging feedback with me, but you would do me a favor if you be a little bit more courageous and shared it with me. And that would also clear some fears and concerns that people have with sharing challenging feedback with you, because the challenge is, if I'll be candid with you, our relationship may deteriorate, and I don't want to knock off your confidence. But by stating up front, this is who I am, this is how I like my feedback, I am aware of it, I know it's going to be tough for me, I know it's going to be tough for you to share it, but that's the best thing you can do for me. And then, more likely, they will share with you. And then moving forward, perhaps if you know that you have this tendency of feeling with the project in your objects in your hand, or you have a certain patterns of your behaviors, or whilst you're on the stage that you're detracting from the message, ask someone, like, is there anything at a particular moment that caught your attention that I was perceived as not confident or not comfortable? Was there anything about my body language that was perceived as not confident, comfortable? Perhaps not everyone will share it with you. If you ask someone like me or even Kieran, I would be very detailed with it for sure. Okay? So Kieran, Andrada, the challenge is helping people to see the moment that the kindest thing. Yes, Kieran. Sorry, I didn't see that comment coming from Kieran at all. But it's literally that's the mindset that I also admire and present and have. Absolutely. Spot on, guys. Yes, that's the best thing we can do. But helping people understand it in the moment or before that and reinforce that again is important. And if you are within that environment, within that team, over the prolonged period of time, if you do it several times, the thing is, you won't have to do it in the future. Because now they know your intention. They know you as a person. They know that you really mean the business. So they will do that for you. If not everyone, don't bank on it. Don't count that everyone will be candid with you, as Kieran said. Not everyone is comfortable being candid, but the chances are there is a person or two that will be so comfortable with it, and they will always share that honest feedback with you, Andrada. Okay? And the last thing, guys, before I wrap up right now, is let me share with you example how I failed. And I'm saying failed because I didn't do what I planned to. I am working as a podcast host. I'm always working to get better, always. And as I'm feeling more comfortable with the hosting the event, there's still work to do, absolutely, but I'm getting better at it. I also know that there are elements that, just a few minutes before I jump on the live stream with someone and a few minutes afterwards that I need to improve because I'm not hosting in a way that I want and I perceive hospitality like experience. Because for me, podcast interview is an experience. And I'm trying to create from the very first point of touch to the very best and the best possible experience for my guest to say, thank you for being generous with your time. And so I thought, okay, part of that, I'll be asking for feedback. And I just get overly confident with the idea that I'm confident and comfortable with sharing and asking for feedback. And I didn't prepare properly. And it's my mistake, absolutely. I didn't prepare to the level that I wanted. I said, okay, I'll ask for feedback right at the beginning and right at the end. And I was interviewed with David. And because live streaming is challenging and it brings different sets of challenges, I was a little bit nervous. Of course, I didn't ask in a way that I wanted, and I didn't follow it in a way that I wanted as well. So the lesson for me down there and for all of you guys is whenever you're going to ask for feedback, prepare for it. Prepare what's your intention, what you're looking for to learn. Make it as clear as possible for everyone else to contextualize. What's obvious to you, it's not obvious to them. You got to spell it out. You got to let them know this is what I'm working on towards. Be very specific. Prepare for it and then ask. If you think, yeah, I'm comfortable with asking for feedback, I'm not going to ask that person for feedback, chances are you'll be a little bit nervous, a little bit agitated. Different things would happen in between that will throw you off the rail. And then, I meant to ask that feedback. You ask for it, and you're not coming across the way you wanted, and you not get the feedback that you wanted. So my huge lesson, I was literally a few days ago, please prepare ahead of the moment. Please prepare before you ask for that feedback. Don't be overly confident that you know what you want and it's going to work out. Do a little bit more homework there at all. A little bit homework as well, guys, okay? Right. Hopefully this session was really valuable for you guys. I appreciate you joining in. I know it's a Sunday afternoon in the UK. Not everyone is going to spend their time on personal development on Sundays. I'm open to the feedback whether it should be done on Sundays or weekdays. My rationale behind it is I'm doing those sessions on Sundays so managers who are having a week ahead of them, working week ahead, can prepare their questions and concerns if they have difficult feedback conversation ahead of them, and they can ask them during today's session. I'm also mindful that Sunday perhaps is not the best day for everyone. On the other hand, some people actually prefer that day off to tune in and do their own bits. So let me know whether Sunday is working or isn't working for you guys. I'll adjust. For now, it's every Sunday, 2:30 p.m., 9:30 a.m. EST time. Every week has its own theme and topic, but I'm also open to ask any questions that are coming my way around feedback. Last thing, guys. Thank you, Karen. I appreciate it. I appreciate that. Last thing, and these guys, you've seen a bit of an advert down below, guys. I'm opening my very first, which is a beta testing version of Open Feedback Program. It's 8 weeks that is going to cover a lot of feedback skills and tactics that will help you share real-time feedback in your workplace and will help everyone around you get comfortable with feedback. It's, in my opinion, one of the main mistake that managers are doing and the feedback trainings are containing is that they're focusing on providing feedback only. And that's only part of the problem. It doesn't really address the root cause of it. The root cause of it is elsewhere. And we need more things to put in place so everyone starts feeling comfortable with feedback. Requesting is just one of those. So guys, so that's 8 weeks training program. Get in touch with me. It's starting middle March. It's small group, 12 managers. And I'm looking forward to guys to do that with you as well. So one module, 1 week will cover requesting feedback, receiving feedback well. We'll cover how to create social contract with your employees. So social contract is something about rather than just make feedback professional and like all about work, let's just tap into intrinsic motivation and let's just understand what that person wants as an individual and how can I help you get there. We'll also cover positive feedback as a tool, not only to recognize your team, but also to coach your team. So you're going to pick up 1 or 2 behaviors that you want to see more from your team. And then I'm going to show you how to use positive feedback to get exact that from your team. And then, of course, we're going to cover how to share the feedback and make it a coaching conversation, because feedback is not supportive if you don't offer solutions or if you don't help your team come up with the solutions. So that's 8 weeks program, guys, middle of the March. 3 huge interviews, guys, this week. I'll repeat. Tomorrow, a super excited and interesting one is with the former FBI agent, someone who was working with spies. Therefore, he knows and understands how to build trust and rapport with others. That's what I'm going to learn from Robin Drick. And I'm going to contextualize it. How can we make it within the feedback conversations? So how to build that rapport and that relationship with your employees so they're comfortable with during the feedback conversation with you. Tuesday is Teresa Houston. She wrote a phenomenal book, Let's Talk About Feedback. So the book is Let's Talk, and the book is all about feedback, and it's phenomenal. I know Kieran mentioned Radical Candor. It's a Bible. Let's Talk is just as good. It's, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, it's on par with Radical Candor. It's that good. So Tuesday, 6 p.m., I'll be talking with Teresa Houston live here, guys. And Saturday, Claude Silver, Chief Heart Officer from VaynerMedia. We talk about kindness and empathy as your tool, because kindness and empathy does belong in the workplace. So those are the 3 interviews, guys, this week. And very quickly, I mentioned Kim Scott. She is back on Coaching Leaders in March 22nd. Don't quote me yet. I need to check my calendar. It's 20th something, because that's when her new book is coming out. And we'll be talking about her new book, which is mainly about injustice in the workplace and how to bounce back from it. So I don't see any more questions, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. I really appreciate you. I'll definitely see you next week and throughout my interviews within the week as well, guys. Have a great Sunday on purpose.